Okay, it's 1:15 on my clock. What about you, Charmaine?
Yep.
Okay, shall we start then?
Go for it, Callie.
Okay. Yes. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to a event. Today we have Sharon Meyer, and she is a treaty status member of Treaty 6 Beardy's Okemasis Cree First Nation, retired as of June 2023 after serving 32 years of education. She has served in the role as a classroom teacher, principal in elementary and high school, and administration in the provincial and federal education system. The last 12 years, she has served as a First Nation, Métis, and Inuit education consultant for the Northeast School Division, presently a representative for the OT Speakers Bureau. Sharon is a mother of 2 adult daughters and a cookum to 4 grandchildren. Her marriage moved her to the Carrot River district where she currently resides. She is a medicine wheel knowledge keeper and a storyteller, sharing many teachings regarding personal childhood, adult, and cultural experiences. She is also a blanket exercise facilitator. She is currently a committee member of the Nipawin Reconciliation, OTC Wisdom Circle, and Saskatchewan Archaeology Society. I'm sorry. Erin looks forward to sharing her knowledge and teaching with your group. And as well, I would like to let you all know that this will be recorded for us to continue sharing the information we will learn today throughout Storytelling Month. And I hope you really enjoy. Thank you. Take it away, Sharon.
All right. Thank you. Tansi, everyone. Hello, and welcome to OTC, helping to celebrate the Indigenous Storytelling Month in February. So we're all here to listen to some stories. And I just want to remind you with stories, the stories come from oral history. And more of our young people are starting to record the stories. And elders and knowledge keepers for a while were very uncomfortable with recording stories and writing books because during the Indian Act, the First Nation people were punished for doing their ceremonies and thinking that the ceremonies, the colonists thought they were worshiping the devil. And it wasn't the devil, it was a trickster. And trickster is a kind of a guide for us, and we don't know if it's a he or she. We don't even know what he looks like. He's like a shapeshifter, and he has various names in different nations, and I'll share that with you today. So I'm going to share various stories from various nations, and the first story I want to share with you is about the earth on Turtle's Back, how Turtle Island came to be. When I talk about Turtle Island, we look at Mother Earth, and Mother Earth is like a sphere. And then, as First Nation people, we have oral stories about Turtle Island. I'm not doing the camera right here. And there's Turtle Island. If we drew a picture around, Nunavut and United States and Canada and then South America, it would look like a turtle. So that's why we call it Turtle Island. And if you saw a picture of it, there's a picture of Turtle Island and how it would look. So sometimes, now our newer storytellers, we don't have books. We've never had books, and some of us don't have pictures. And so it's oral teaching. So I like to use pictures. I like to use puppets. I try to be dramatic because you're watching me. So I try to make my face into the feelings and emotions of the story. So I've never really shared this story. I've talked about it and I've introduced it, but I've never really shared the story. So I'm going to share the story today of how Turtle Island came to be on this Mother Earth. Before Turtle Island was created, the earth was all water. It was a water world. And in the water world, there were the water animals, the fish that came around and all kinds of fish. And sure.
Sharon, you are
Sharon,
muted. You accidentally
somehow
muted
you went
yourself.
Oh, she
muted.
muted herself. It's like, what did I do?
Sharon, your microphone is muted. Can I please ask everyone to keep your mics muted and your cameras off? And Sharon, yours is muted.
There we go. So how long has it been unmuted? Because we were talking
Like
before.
maybe not even 5 minutes.
Okay, so I'm gonna go back and share my stories with you again, and the people are sharing stories. And I was saying that during the Indian Act, the First Nation people were punished for doing the ceremonies, and so a lot of the stories went underground, and um, and then the elders were very reluctant when students started going to school. I remember myself being a university student in the education field, and I was going to record some stories, and I went and asked some elders, and they were very uncomfortable because they were raised in the time when they were punished during the Indian Act, and they wanted to hide the stories, and they didn't want to share because it was fear of being punished and being mocked and being made fun of. But as our generations go on, we have many people that are starting to share stories. Some stories are allowed to share, that you find stories of legends in your library. In the stores, you can buy books of some legends. And then there are some ceremonial stories that are not to be told outside the ceremony. Let's say we were visiting a Sundance, and the Sundance leader would say, I'm going to share a story, but it doesn't leave the walls of the Sundance. So we respect that. So there are some stories that we can share, and there's some stories that we don't share. Our stories involve the trickster. And in my culture, in my Cree culture, we have the Wisakechuk, but he has many names in different nations. And our stories are very similar to each other because our teachings come from the medicine wheel. And the medicine wheel is shaped like a circle. And this is our school, this is our curriculum. Our stories are in here. It doesn't matter how you turn the medicine wheel, the stories are still the same. They're still in the circle. It's not like if a culture followed a star shape. A star does not fit a circle. A circle doesn't fit a star. But a circle fits a circle, and that's why our nation's stories are very similar. The story format may change, but the learning outcome is very similar to each other. And the one story I always wanted to share was about how Turtle Island came to be. This is Mother Earth when you hold it in your hands, a sphere. And I drew Turtle Island here. And Turtle Island includes like Nunavut, Canada, United States, and South America. And when you draw a picture around it, it looks like a turtle. And that's why we called it Turtle Island. And when we have a picture of Turtle Island, I have a picture here of Turtle Island. When we draw a picture, he looks a bit like this. He looks like Turtle Island. So that's why we call it Turtle Island. But I want to share how Turtle Island came to be. And again, when we shared stories, it was an oral tradition. So this is where children or audience members have to use their imagination. And the storyteller's duty is to try to create that picture, so that image, so you can put that image in your mind. And unfortunately, so many children are losing their imagination because they're so dependent on those, those video games and the telephone. And boys and girls, you have to remember how to use your imagination. And so as I'm sharing these stories to you today, I want you to put a picture in your mind and try to put like a movie in your mind while I'm trying to share these stories. And that will make the story so much better for you. And I will use some pictures and I will use some puppets today to help you visualize a little bit better too. So in my land acknowledgement as well, I'm thankful to be on Treaty 6 territory, and maybe any other treaty territory that is joining us today, welcome. And I'm so thankful for the relations that have walked before me, that left their stories behind, to the relations that walk with me, that share their knowledge and their stories, so I can connect with you and pass on the knowledge and the stories to you today, to the relatives that will walk after me. So I'm thankful for that. And thankful for the land that we all share on our Treaty 6 territory and on our Turtle Island. So this story is about how the Turtle Island came to be on Mother Earth. The Earth looked very different a long time ago. The Earth was just water. It had no land on it. And all that existed, remember from the medicine wheel, were the swimmers and the winged ones and the winged world, because they could exist in the sky world. And high above the water world, there was a sky world. And in that sky world, there were people that lived up there. And they were led by a sky master. And he had a wife. And in that skyland, they say there was a beautiful tree. It was almost like a magical tree. And the magic tree, this tree could grow all the fruits and all the plants and flowers on it. It was so magical. And the mother, the sky master's wife, she was expecting a baby, and she was visiting this tree one day, and she said, "Oh," she said, she says, "I love you so much, tree," and she'd always talk to the tree every day. And then she went home one night, and she had a dream, that the tree fell over and it died. And she was telling her husband, Sky Master, she said, "I had a dream last night, husband." She said, "I felt like the tree had died." And he said, "That's a bad omen." He said, "That's a strong dream." He says, "Especially from a woman who's carrying a baby inside of her, they have strong dreams." And he said, "Maybe we should just get rid of that tree before it does damage to us." And so he gathered all his men, his warrior men, and he said, "I want to dig out this tree because my wife had a terrible dream about this tree, and I want to get rid of this tree." And everybody was worried because it was a very special tree. It had all these seeds that led to all these fruits and all these flowers and plants. And anyway, the men went out there and they tied ropes around this tree, and this tree was so strong. They tried to rip it out, and its roots were too strong. And the roots were really special because each root had 4 roots, and each root pointed to a direction, just like the directions in the medicine wheel. Pretend this is a tree stump here, and these are the directions. So it was like the medicine wheel. It pointed to the cardinal directions: north, south, east, and west. And so each warrior tried, and a whole bunch of warriors tried. They got together and they pulled and pulled and pulled, and nothing would budge this tree. And the sky master, he got so angry. He was a big guy, and he went and he said, "Oh, what's the matter with you all?" And he went and he hugged this tree, and he forced it and he forced it, and he could feel it budging. It was coming and coming. Finally, it lifted, poof, and the tree came out, and everybody was so amazed how strong and powerful Sky Master was. And he laid the tree on the side. And then Sky Woman, his wife, she kind of looked, and where he had pulled the tree out, there was a huge hole. And she gazed into the hole, and she was just about losing her balance. So she reached out and she grabbed onto the branch of the tree, and she looked down, and she could see something glistening. And as she looked, it looked like water, just like the water in the sky world. And she was going to look further, and she lost her balance, and down she went. And as she went, she pulled some seeds and some flowers and plants and held it in her hand. And then she started screaming as she was falling from the sky world. Oh, and the swimmers heard the screaming, and the winged ones heard the screaming, and they all went fluttering. They were looking up at the sky. "What is that? What is that?" "Well, it looks like what Wasakachuk always said, a human would come." "Is that a human?" Oh, everybody ran. And two big, beautiful cranes got together and they had big wings. And they said, let's help this human. And they flew up to the sky world. And just as the woman was falling, plop, she fell right on their wings. And they thought, what are we going to do with her? And they brought her to the water world and they gently floated on the water with the woman on their wings. And they said, what do we do with her? And all the swimmers started popping up, and swimmer said, I heard that they need to walk. They need land. And another little swimmer came and he said, yeah, he says, I know where there's some earth. I know where there's some land. He said, way deep down in that water, way deep down, there is what they call earth, soil. Oh, the animal said, well, we need to get that for her. Who's going to get it? So the first one said, oh, I'll get it. and Duck came, and Duck said, I'm a good swimmer. I like to dive. So Duck came, and Duck said, I'll dive. So Duck took a deep breath and he went down, 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 down. And the animals were really worried for him because he just wasn't coming up. He was taking forever to come up. Oh, and he came up and, he says, oh, and he was taking his deep breath. And he was flopping his wings. He said, oh, he said, I tried, but he said, that water is so deep. He said, I could see the dirt. I could see the land. I could see the earth, but I just couldn't reach it. Oh, I'm so out of breath. And Loon said, well, I'm a good swimmer. He said, let me try. So Loon came by and all the animals said, good luck, Loon, good luck. So Loon again took a deep breath and went down into the water. And nobody could see him anymore. He was going so deep. And Loon was swimming and swimming, and he could see the bottom of the earth and he could see the dirt. And he put some, and he just about touched it, and he realized he was running out of air, and his wing just about touched the earth, and he thought he can't do it, he's going to drown. So he quickly swam back up to the land, to the shore area. And, oh, and the animals were looking at him and going, did you get it? Did you get it? Oh no, my wing touched it, but I just couldn't get it. Oh, the animals said, who's going to help us now? Who's going to help us? Just then Muskrat came up. Oh, I'm a good swimmer. I'll go get it. Muskrat. Muskrat, you're going to get it? Well, with your webbed and your little claws, maybe you can get it. Yeah, I'll try. So he said, for the sky woman, I will try. So he took a deep breath and he dived into the water. And the animals all looked and they couldn't see him anymore. He was down in the depths of the water. And Muskrat was swimming deeper and deeper with his webbed paws. And he could see the dirt, he could see the earth, he could see the soil. And he swam even harder. And he felt he was running out of water, out of air. So he grasped, and sure enough, he grabbed some soil in his little hand. And he was running out of breath. And he swam really fast up to the water. He started running out of air, and he started floating because he was running out of air. And when he came up to the surface of the water, he was kind of floating. And the animals, the fish came and they lifted him up. And as they lifted him up, he was coughing. Oh, look at Muskrat did it. And they all cheered. Muskrat brought the dirt, the soil, the earth. He has it in his paw. What do we do with it now? All the sky birds and all the water animals were confused. Well, the lady needs to stand up, but what are we going to do with the dirt? Oh, all of a sudden, these waves and ripples started coming out of the water. And out of the water came Turtle. Turtle, with his deep voice, said, let me help her. Put the soil on my back. So that's what they did. Muskrat put the soil on his back and left it there. And the cranes brought Sky Woman over and they let her lay on Turtle. And she laid on the soil and she looked at the soil and she says, I brought seeds from my sky world. And she put the seeds onto the turtle's back in the soil. And then magically, just like that magic tree, plant world started to grow and plants started growing abundantly, just like the plant world that we have in today's world. And I've got a beautiful picture here somewhere. I'm going to dig it out. And the plants grew, the trees grew, and that's what we have today, that beautiful land of trees and plants and all our medicines. And that's how Turtle Island came to be. And on that Turtle Island, as all the plant world began to grow, and then the animal world came, and then Trickster was here, and then the Creator created the human, and he created the four gifts of the human. He made them, let me see there. He made the mental, the emotional, the physical, and the spiritual realm of all the human beings. And we have those four gifts. And that's how we say Turtle Island came to be. And that's my story. And when we share stories, we share them out of how we've learned in our knowledge. And some of these stories have been passed on to me orally, and some of them I've come across in libraries where I've researched legends, and some of them have come to me as gifts because people know I'm storytellers, and they go like, "I think you like this story," and they share stories with me in that way too. So I'm really happy that they're willing to share their stories with me in that way as well. This next story I'm going to share with you is called Fire in the Mouth. And it actually, I forgot to tell you, and we wanted to acknowledge where the story came from. Excuse me. I'm dropping all my puppets and everything. The earth on Turtle's Back came from the Anagalaga people, which is in the northeast woodlands, and that would be up in the area of almost a BC Alberta area. So that's those people that have our story for us. This fire in the mouth story, it comes from the Cherokee people. And the Cherokee people live way down in the southern part of our Turtle Island. Oh, I have to think backwards. Way down here in the southern area. And that's where the Cherokee people come. So, in the beginning of the world, when people and the animals and the plants lived together, at the very beginning, the plants and the animals, they could all talk to each other, and humans could communicate with the plants, and humans could communicate with the animals. And the world was wonderful because everyone could talk. And but at that same time, there was only one tobacco plant that existed, and everyone relied on that tobacco. Now, tobacco in its pure form is a healing plant, and it heals us in our many ailments that people have, and it's used in our sacred ceremonies as well. So everyone who is sick, or they want to celebrate a secret ceremony or a special ceremony, they would go and seek out this tobacco plant and ask for its guidance, and they will bring some tobacco back. And well, one day the geese family, the goose, got really greedy, and we never knew why he got so greedy. But a bunch of geese stole the tobacco plant, and they took the plant and they flew it way down south, almost like to the Mexico area. And the people suffered without that tobacco plant. And there was one very important old lady, and she was dying, and she needed to have the tobacco to help heal her. So all the animals came together and they said, "Well, we'll help you. We'll go and sneak up on these geese, and we'll get the tobacco from them." And and all these animals came, and little mole, I don't really have a mole, but I have a little guy who kind of looks like a mole. And little mole came up. He says, "Well, I'll help you." He said, "I'll go sneak up on those geese, and I'll get that tobacco plant." So that's what he did, because moles make their homes underground. So he went and found the place where the geese had placed this tobacco plant, and the mole went under the ground, and he dug and he dug and he dug, and he was just about to the tobacco plant. He wasn't too sure where he was, so he was going to poke his head out to see just where this tobacco plant was. Just as he was going to do that, the geese noticed the earth moving and shifting. So they noticed that, "Hey, I think that's Mole down there trying to get to the tobacco plant. Let's surprise him." So that's what happened. The geese waited, and they noticed that Mole stopped moving, and he popped his head up. And just as he popped his head up, those mean old geese grabbed him, and they beat on him, they chewed him apart, and Mole died. Mole never came back to the people. And the animals and the people were waiting for Mole to come back. And they said, Mole is never coming back. The geese must have got him. So little animals offered. Little rabbit said, I'll help him. I'll help him. I'll go. I can hop real fast. I can out hop those geese. And oh, Rabbit tried and he went down, hopping all the way down to where the tobacco plant was. And he was really quiet. And he could camouflage really well, especially among those plants in the south. And he would hide. But what gave him away were his big ears. And the geese saw those ears past the plants. And the geese said, Hey, I think Rabbit's down there. And yep, sure thing. They found Rabbit and they pulled him by the ears. They put him in the air and they smashed him. They beat him up. And Rabbit died. So Rabbit was of no use. And all the animals said, Oh no, who's going to help us find the tobacco plant? Our people need it. Our wonderful old woman, the one with the wise stories and all the wide medicine, she needs the medicine. Wow. All of a sudden, little hummingbird came. And everybody kind of chuckled. Little hummingbird? What are you supposed to do? Well, I am so small. I can fly. Watch me fly. And everybody thought, whoa, he is a fast flyer. Well, and then they said, well, let us have you show us how fast you can fly. Mm, let's go and say, how about you go get that plant for us over there? So it's like a practice run. So Hummingbird really had to prove himself of how fast he could fly. I don't know how many of you have ever seen a hummingbird, but they sure fly very quickly. And sometimes when I'm in my garden, they fly by so fast. All I hear is a kind of like a flutter of their wings, and I don't see them because they fly by so fast. Well, Hummingbird begged hard enough that the animal said, Okay, go for it. He said, Okay, that's what I'll do. I will go get the tobacco plant for us all. And the hummingbird flew off all the way to the tobacco plant. And he flew and flew for days and nights. And he knew he was getting closer to where the geese world was because he could see the geese flying in the sky. And he thought, oh, I have to dodge them. And he would quickly hide under plants all the way, under leaves, under the tree bushes. And he was so small, he could hide in little places where the geese couldn't get into. And before you knew it, the, the hummingbird grabbed the tobacco plant and flew out of there. And the geese looked and said, Hey, where's our tobacco plant? Not seeing or hearing the hummingbird snuck off with the tobacco plant and came back to the people's world with the tobacco. And everybody cheered, the animals and the humans all cheered because the hummingbird brought the tobacco plant back. And he arrived and he took some tobacco and he inhaled it. And he was so hot it kind of burned. And he went to the old lady and he blew it into her mouth and into her nostrils. And he blew the tobacco smoke into her mouth. And she took a deep breath and she started coughing. And then Hummingbird had healed the old lady and her sickness, and she lived. And he brought the tobacco plant back. And everybody celebrated the hummingbird and his talent of flying so fast and saving the tobacco. And why I'm sharing that tobacco story with you is I want to teach you a little about tobacco. And last year I was given two tobacco plants as a gift for doing some presentations. And I grew the tobacco plants. They grew out to be about as high as my hip. So they grow quite high. And this is one leaf from the tobacco plant. This is one leaf and it's a brown color. And when it's brown, that's when you pick it. And then when it's really, really dry, you crumple it, and that's how you get the tobacco. And tobacco is a very sacred plant for our First Nation people. It's one of our four sacred plants. And we have sage, we have sweetgrass, we have the cedar, and then we have the tobacco. But tobacco and all, I call these four medicine plants our teachers because they teach us. They teach us how to be thankful, how to take time for ourselves because we bring them into our smudge. before I started this morning, I had my own smudge and I burned my sage. And that's how we start things in a good way. And when we say we want to start things in a good way, we usually have a pipe ceremony or a smudge, and we burn one of our four medicines. And in that way, we ask for good things and we say we give thanks for things. But tobacco is given to people to honor people, to respect them. And when someone takes tobacco, someone who's offered tobacco and they take tobacco, it's like a promise. They promise to share their knowledge. So let's say you want somebody to come teach you about the treaties in your classroom, and you would offer that First Nation ceremonial person that tobacco. But you can always ask if that person accepts tobacco, because I learned in a hard way that some people don't accept tobacco because I offered the tobacco and they said, no, that's not our way. So it's always respectful to ask if they accept tobacco. And if they accept tobacco, and there's different ways we can offer tobacco. I've been offered tobacco in these beautiful little decorated cardboard boxes, and inside there's some tobacco in a pouch, a paper pouch. And this is tobacco leaves and traditional tobacco. And I've been given tobacco in little sachets, little pockets like this, and little almost like medicine bags, and there's some tobacco inside. I have been given tobacco in little bundles like this. You can put them in cloth. And usually we have, this one was given to me in the orange shirt color. We usually give them in the reds for healing, the yellow or the white. We usually stick to those kind of medicine wheel colors, but not the black. And I've been given tobacco in little fancy packages like this and decorations on it. I have been given tobacco in the cigarette packages, and I've been given tobacco in envelopes. So there's different ways you can offer tobacco. If you don't want to give a whole pack of cigarettes, somebody can offer me one cigarette. I will not accept it. If they give me two cigarettes, I will not accept it. I only accept four cigarettes. And I think most of you boys and girls know the teachings of the medicine wheel. There are four directions in the medicine wheel, and four is a very sacred number for First Nation people. So that's why we give four cigarettes, to honor the four directions of the medicine wheel. And so we never give less than four cigarettes. But I've also been given tobacco in a tin box, and we don't want tobacco in a tin box because tin, we never had tin before the early settlers came. They brought the tin over and the metal containers, because that, we say, smothers the medicine. It kills the medicine. So we want the medicine in like birch bark baskets. Our elders stored our medicines in birch bark baskets for centuries. And so we want it in something with cardboard, something from Mother Earth, that can let the medicine, what we say, breathe and live and hold its medicine qualities to it. I have, when we give pouches of tobacco, that's when we call the pipe in. We want the pipe to do a ceremony. So we don't offer the pouch tobacco unless we ask for a pipe to be brought to do a ceremony for us. But otherwise, if it's to share, someone to sing, someone to come share how to snare a rabbit, come share a story in your classroom, that's when you offer them tobacco, because you're offering them a kind of a gift of a sacred medicine to honor their knowledge and their presence to come and share that talent with you. So that's how we use tobacco. I don't smoke in any way, but I always carry tobacco with me because tobacco is my offering. If I, come across maybe another medicine wheel teacher, I'll offer him or her for some teachings that he or she carries that I don't have, and I'll offer him some tobacco to share that with me. Or if I have a question from an elder or a knowledge keeper, we call that a tobacco question. So we offer them tobacco to get an answer from them. We just don't go up to them and ask them a question and expect an answer. We honor them in that way because they carry that knowledge from all our relations before us. So we honor them with that tobacco. Otherwise, we have tobacco offerings. Let's say somebody goes hunting, and let's say they shoot a moose, and the moose drops to the ground, and they take tobacco and they talk to the moose, and they say, "Brother Moose, thank you for taking care of yourself. Thank you for eating the medicines of Mother Earth, so you can, I can feed you as my medicine now." And they put the tobacco on the ground, then they'll take the moose. And when I say about the medicine, when I talk about medicine, I don't talk about the medicine you get from your doctor or you buy in a drugstore. I'm talking about the medicines that come from Mother Earth. And Mother Earth has given us medicines all on this Mother Earth. Came from, again, the Sky Woman. She brought those wonderful seeds. And, she didn't bring balls of pop down. She didn't bring chocolate bars down. She didn't bring bags of chips down. She brought medicines down. And that's how we should nourish our body, with the medicines of Mother Earth, the berries, the teas, the nuts, the fruits, that kind of thing. So that's the medicine I'm talking about. And the animals still know that their role is to take care of the human beings. And that's why they eat the medicines of Mother Earth. You don't see a deer walking around with a chocolate bar or a bag of chips. They honor themselves. They eat just the medicines of Mother Earth so they can take care of themselves, so they can be our medicine when we eat them. So we can learn a lot from the animals. And when we go fishing as First Nation ceremonial people who carry tobacco, not all First Nation people are ceremonial, and not all First Nation people carry tobacco. I'm talking from my own experience and my own people. And in my world, when I carry tobacco, let's say I go fishing, before I put my fishing rod into the water, I'll put the tobacco in the water and I'll say thank you to the brother fish. Thank you for eating the medicine. So when I catch you, you become the medicine so I can feed my family and friends. I also bring tobacco when I'm about to plant my garden. I'll talk to my seeds and I said, I'm going to offer you tobacco so you can grow, so you can become my medicines and my food for my family and friends. So I put tobacco on my garden, and I'll put the seeds in the garden, and then I watch my plants grow, the medicines grow. And then before I harvest it in the fall, I'll take my tobacco out there and I'll put the tobacco on the ground, and I'll say, thank you, plants. Thank you. Thank you to the rain. Thank you to the sun. Thank you to the winds. Thank you to grandfather ground for growing the medicine. So when I harvest you now, you can become my medicine so I can feed my family and friends. And my tobacco says, thank you. So I put the tobacco on the ground. If I go berry picking and I see blueberries or raspberries or strawberries, I'll put tobacco on the ground because I'll say, thank you to the blueberries. You have grown, you become my medicine so I can feed my family and friends. So it's a tobacco that says thank you. And part of land acknowledgement, I encourage you to take a little bit of tobacco in your hands. And this is what I do when I had the land base that I started out at Northeast School Division. We have a land base out by the town called Love. So we call it Love Land. And the boys and girls come out there and I teach them about the medicines. And when we sit in a circle, I teach them about tobacco. And I give each child a little bit of tobacco. And then we go all out into the land, all by ourselves. We don't go with our partners. It's not a talking time. It's not a visiting time. But it's a time to offer that little tobacco to say thank you to Mother Earth. And it's so beautiful to watch these boys and girls go out there and they walk out there, and some of them are talking to the trees, and some of them are talking to the bushes, and some of them are talking to the sun, some are talking them to the ground, and it doesn't matter, but they're learning how to say thank you. And that's part of being a treaty person, is being grateful and respectful, to respect the land that we're living on. And that's being a treaty person, because we're all living on this land. We're all playing on this land. We go to school on this land. This land is treaty land. And that's the first way our land acknowledgement should start, is taking that tobacco and saying thank you to Mother Earth in some way. When have we ever said thank you to Mother Earth? We have to learn to do that. And land acknowledgement is part of learning to do that, to say thank you to the land. So that's a little bit of my teaching about tobacco. And tobacco is always put into our sacred pipes to start our ceremonies as well. And tobacco is often mixed with other medicines, and sometimes cedar, sometimes sage. It depends on the ceremony and who's leading the ceremony as well. This next story I want to share with you is called The First Fire, and it talks about how fire came to be. And this comes from the Cherokee people. So I have my little animals waiting in the background here. I don't know where I put them. I'm looking for Bear. Bear. So when the animals first arrived on our turtle island, and they were all here, Creator sent them to Turtle Island, they could all talk to each other. It was amazing. And they got along with each other, and they were learning how to get the the turtle island ready for the coming of the humans, because the humans weren't here yet. And only Trickster was among the animals and the plants. And the animals could talk to each other. And one night, Bear went out walking, and he was walking by the land, and across the land there was lots of water, and on this water there was a little island. And as he was walking the island, it was becoming to be a stormy night, and the clouds were coming in. It was getting dark, and all of a sudden he saw a light come down from the sky world, and everyone knows what that is. It's lightning. And he saw the lightning come on to the area of the island. Boom! And then he saw light. And at this time of the world, when the animals were living on Turtle Island, they had the sun during the day, and the sun kept the animals all nice and warm. But at night, it was cold, and they didn't know how to keep themselves warm because there was no fire yet. And Bear didn't know what that light was. So he went walking towards the island, and he looked across the water, and he saw the tree on fire. And he thought, what is that? Look at that light. Look at that glow. And oh, and he put his paws out and he said, it feels so warm. Oh, that's wonderful. He thought, I got to tell the other animals about it. I got to tell the other animals about it. So when he got back to the forest, all the little animals gathered around him, and I'm losing my animals all around here. I got too many animals set up around here. And the one little animal, where's I lost here he is. He went to the animals and he said, oh, animals, he said, look, he said, you got to come see what I found. And they said, what'd you find? What'd you find? And he said, I found something that fell from the sky, and it started this tree, and it's sparkling, and it gives warmth. I'm sure he can share that warmth with us for the nighttime. But we got to get to that warmth. And so Bear led all these animals, and animals all followed him to where the spark was glowing. And they all looked, and sure enough, across that island, all the animals were looking, and they could see the sparks coming from this tree and the light coming from the tree. And they went, oh, look at that. And they could all feel the warmth coming from the tree. And they said, how are we going to get it? How are we going to get it? And Big Old Bear said, well, someone's got to swim across the water and go get it. Someone's got to swim there. And Raccoon said, well, I will. I'll swim. I'm a good swimmer. So all the animals said, go, Raccoon, bring it back. Bring the warmth back. Bring the light back. Okay, okay. So you have to remember that Raccoon looked very differently a long time ago. He had gray fur, a little bit of white, but he never had these markings. So Raccoon was kind of white, and he dove into the water, swimming to the island. And he got to the island, and he got to the tree, and oh, he could just feel the heat coming from the tree. And he said, how am I going to get to that tree? And he got close, and he thought, well, maybe I'll run and hug it really fast and grab it. So he went and he ran to the tree, and he hugged it. Oh, and he started screaming. He burnt all of his paws. And even to this day, Raccoon has black paws. Oh, that's too hot. He said, what am I going to do? And he looked around. He saw a big hole in the tree. So he thought, I'll go look and see inside. So he looked, and just as he looked, he took a deep breath, and he looked in the hole. He went, "Bah," and when he breathed, the air made the fire come out of the hole, and it burnt his eyes. And Raccoon fell to the ground. And he rolled around. And, oh, my eyes, my eyes. Oh, and he was coughing from the soot in his lungs. He was coughing. Oh, he says, and then while he was rolling around, his tail got caught in the roots of the tree, and he spun around. He said, oh, my tail. And he tugged and tugged. And then when he looked at his tail, he had these black marks burnt from the branches of the tree. So he swam back all injured. And when he got back, the animals looked at him and said, oh, "Raccoon, look at yourself." And Raccoon couldn't look at himself, so he ran to the water. He tried looking at the reflection, but it was too dark. He had to wait for daylight. He said, "What's the matter with me?" And the animal said, "Your eyes. You burnt your eyes. There's black markings across your. Look at your paws." And he looked at his paws, and they were all black and burned. "Look at your tail." He looked at his tail, and he had all these black rings. And still to this day, Raccoon carries the markings of trying to bring fire back to the turtle island. Oh, who can help us now? Who can help us now? Well, Wolf came, and Wolf, he says, "Oh, I can help you. I can help you." And Wolf says, "I can swim pretty good." So the animals cheered him on. "Go, Wolf. Go, Wolf." And Wolf kind of had kind of a covering that was kind of like a grayish covering, and a very beautiful white coat kind of thing. So when he got over there, he swam and swam and swam. And he says, "Oh," he says, "how am I going to do this?" He said, "I don't know how everybody else did it." And he started pawing at the hot tree, and oh, he started burning his paws, and he burnt his paws black. And he thought, well, maybe I'll sniff it. And when he got too close to the tree, he burnt his nose. Oh, he burnt his nose, and his nose was black. And he thought he was going to look in the same hole as Raccoon had looked, because Raccoon didn't warn him not to look in the hole. So Wolf went to look in the hole, and oh, the fire puffed out and burnt his eyes. And oh, my eyes, my eyes. And even today, and when the coyote looks at night and you flash light in his eyes, they light up like fire. And that's because he carries the scars of the burning of the fire of the burning tree. So Wolf swam back, not knowing where he was going the right way because his eyes were so burnt. And he got to the land, and everybody said, "Oh, look at you. You burned all your fur. You're all black. We'll call you Black Wolf. And your eyes, they glow like fire." Hee. And everybody is kind of scared of him. And that's why Coyote howls at the moon. Oh, he cries for his old fur because he's all black. And he cries because his eyes glisten with the moon. They glisten like fire. And everybody's scared of the wolf when they see wolf eyes. Well, everybody was kind of worried. Who's going to help us now? So White Bear came along. And White Bear, everybody knows what his name is. It's Polar Bear. He came and he said, "Oh," he said, "I'm a good swimmer. I can help you guys. I'll help y'all." So he jumped into the water and swam over to the island. Oh, and he could feel the heat of the tree. And he thought, "I'm big and bold. I'm just gonna grab this tree and hug it, and I'm gonna grab in the water and swim it back to the island, to Turtle Island." So that's what he tried doing. He jumped into the water. I mean, he jumped on the tree and he grabbed it. Oh, and the tree was so hot. He started screaming. He rolled around. Oh, his fur was all burnt. And he says, "Oh," he said, "that tree is much stronger than me. I can't help it." And everybody thought, well, who's going to help us now? And when Bear swam back, he was all burnt. All his fur was black. So that's how they say Black Bear came to be. And all the other white bears stayed away because they didn't want to burn their fur on that hot, hot tree. And they looked around, they said, well, who can help us? Who can help us? And then Owl said, "Well, I can help you." Hoo, hoo. And Owl said, "I can fly to the top of the tree. Nobody's been to the top of the tree. I don't need to swim over there." So Owl went in the air, swam over, or flew to the tree, and he landed on the top of the tree, and he landed with his talons. And oh, and he burnt his talons. And even to this day, the owl has black talons. And when he hopped, he looked into the fire, and the fire shot up outside the tree, and it burnt his eyes. Even now, when owls open their eyes, they glisten, and they say the fire glistens from their eyes, and they have the big yellow eyes. So that's how Owl got his eyes. And then Snowy Owl has the big red, black ashes that hit his fur, and it spotted his fur all over. So that's how Snowy Owl came to be with the spotted fur. And they looked around, they said, well, who's going to help us now? We're running out of animals, and animals after animals tried. And then Snake came. And Snake, he was a crawler. So he said, well, I see that animals went on top of the tree. They went trying to hug the tree. They tried going in the tree, but no one tried going under the tree. I can slither under the tree. Let me try. So Water Snake volunteered, and he swam across the water, and he swam to the tree, and he found a hole just underneath the tree. And then he went going in the tree. And when he got into the tree, oh, it was so hot inside. He started crawling up the bark inside the tree. And then he fell into the fire. And when he fell into the fire, he burnt all of his back. And he cried out, shh, shh. And he found the hole and he went back out and he swam back. And everybody looked at him and he said, oh, Snake. He said, you burnt all your fur. Now you just have scales on the back of your back. He said, you look so different. But underneath, he was all pale because he had burnt the top, but he remained all skin on the bottom. So that's how snakes are still today. They all have that skin bottom because everything else was burnt to different colors. And they thought, well, who's going to help us now? Woo! All of a sudden, from the sky world, Raven came. And Raven looked very different. Raven had beautiful, beautiful rainbow colored feathers and some white feathers in him. And he almost looked like the magic toucan bird, you know, that Fruit Loop bird with all the beautiful colors. Well, that's what he kind of looked like. And he said, I'll go get the tree. I'll fly in that sky. And so Raven went and he landed on the branch of the tree and he lost his balance and whoop, he fell inside the tree, and as he tumbled, he is burning. He tried fighting the tree, and he got out. And when he came back, the animals went, oh, Raven, you lost your rainbow feathers. Look at you. And even to this day, Raven has all black feathers. But sometimes, if you look at Raven in a certain sunlight, you can see a little bit of rainbow color on his feathers, still trying to come out. And everybody cried, oh my goodness, we're never going to win the battle of the firing tree. So the littlest creature of all, Spider. Spider came, and everybody kind of laughed at Spider. And Spider, what are you going to do? Oh, I'll show you. So Spider, Water Spider, could swim across the water, and she kind of ran with her legs, and she got across the water, and she went to the tree, and she went, and she said, everybody touched the tree, fell in the tree, went on top of the tree. I better not touch the tree. So she noticed some twigs. So she took the twigs and she went into the fire and she kind of rolled around and she noticed these charcoals. They were bright red and hot. So she rolled one out of the tree and it sat on the sand. And she looked at it and she goes, and she blew on it. And when she blew on it, the embers turned into a little fire. And she thought, I wonder if I can bring a fireball back with me. So Spider spun a little web and she formed it into a bowl. And she put the bowl right on her back. And in the bowl, she used the sticks and she lifted that little fire elm and she put it in her back. And then she swam across the water. And the animal said, did you get it? Did you get it? And off her back, she took her spun bowl and dumped on the ground this burning ember. And she said, look at this, she said. And she hit it with the twigs and it started making little flames and she blew on it. And the flame started growing. And she's, let us bring some leaves and twigs and build it on top of this elm and it'll make sure it'll make a fire. I'm sure of it. I'm sure of it. So that's what they did. So all the animals started gathering old twigs and old leaves and they put it on top and then a fire grew. And that's how we got fire. And when the animals left that little fire, they all took a little piece of that coal and they could start their own fire. And even to this day, the humans use the two sticks to start the fire and they have that friction to start fire today. And that was thankful to the spider and how he brought fire to our turtle island. So with that, that's how fire came to be. And thank you to the Cherokee people for sharing that story. And we're running out of time. And before we go, I just want to remind you again, thank you for coming in. I'm back again on February 26th to share more stories with you. But before we go, I want to share with you a true story and just to remind you of who we are. Hopefully in your school, we all have this. And this is our treaty emblem to remind us of our forefathers who promised with their shake hands that they would share this land forever. And boys and girls, remember how that saying goes? And forever means as long as the, say it with me, sun shines, as long as the rivers flow, and long as the grass grows. And here's that treaty map. And the treaty map, and this is where I'm telling stories from you today, is the Treaty 6 territory, and that's where my First Nation community, Beardy's Okemasis, reside. But I live in Carrot River, which I'm still in Treaty 6 territory. But if you live on any of this colored area, you are a treaty person. What makes me different is I'm treaty status. And status means I belong to one of these First Nation reservations. So celebrate yourselves as treaty people. And I want to say thank you to the OTC for inviting us all to share some stories today. And hopefully you can listen to other storytellers. There's lots of storytellers out there willing to share their stories with you. So you can learn a little bit of our oral traditions and our oral history as First Nation people and how we've come to live on our Turtle Island together. So thank you for listening. Auxe. Thank you.
Thanks, Sharon. That was awesome.
Thank you.
There. Okay.
All right.
There's a whole bunch of thank yous.
All right.
Thank you very much for sharing your stories. Thank you. The kids say bye, Sharon.
Aw, thank you.
Okay.
Beautiful. Thank you. We'll see you February 26th. Hopefully. See you.
We'll see you February 26th. Have a good rest of the
All
day.
right.
Stay warm.